I know last time when we spoke, right, one of the things I wanted to get more into depth with, which I didn't get a chance to, was painting. I think you're an amazing painter. I've seen your paintings. I talk about it all the time. Stop it. I talk about it all the time. But no, I really wanted to delve more into that, obviously. So the question I have for you is to just talk to me about the basics of painting. What are some of the techniques and skills that you think every painter should know, and how did you learn them and continue to use them today in your art?
Um, okay, to start this, I should say that I got only level 3 in art and fine art and everything. So I'm not like the most knowledgeable person, but I have some foundational skills that can be translated to other people. But I would say the most important thing is to deconstruct what you already know about art. Because basically, like, fine art in itself, if you're doing the normal ones like drawing, painting, and clay making or photography or something, is that everyone has a preconception of how you should do it, or why you should do it, or how, like, when, or what you should be doing. Should you be doing paints? Should you be doing sketches, pen? But I feel like to start doing it, you should deconstruct exactly everything that you know and start from the bare basics. And what I learned myself is obviously have your muses, have things you're inspired by, have people that you're inspired by. For me, it's people like Francis Bacon, Van Gogh, Da Vinci, who was my main person who I was like in love with, and Van Gogh followed. Having people who you're inspired by is probably the most important thing.
Talk to me more about your muses. There's a dustbin right beside us, so we'll continue. But talk to me more about your muses. When you say muses, what does that represent to you?
Well, it's people in your life or objects in your life that you're inspired to, or that you admire. If you're an artistic person, the admiration will basically be followed by your artistic instinct in the first place. Like, you get to know someone, and then you start thinking, oh, I should write a poem about this, or I should paint something about this, or a muse, you're looking at like the sky, and you're thinking, it reminds me of Starry Night from Van Gogh, or like just something that you can start off with to give you emotions in the first place, because I don't believe that art can come from a place of no emotions. I feel like something should give you emotions in the first place, something extreme enough that you want to create something out of it, and that should be what your muse is.
Is there always a good thing that comes, that emotion? Is it good, or can it be anything?
It can be anything. It doesn't have to be good. I mean, a lot of artists' work comes from anguish and like angst or ennui. I feel like a lot of artists don't really, because the negative emotions are so easy to pick on. They're so easy to pick out because as humans we look for negativity. It's in our nature. Something is wrong or something that doesn't agree with us. It's sort of standing there like a big red letter, you know.
You can't move past it.
Yeah.
You're just stuck in that moment where that thing you have to try to almost figure it out. And to figure it out is a way of expression for us, right?
Exactly. And that goes both ways. Some things that feel good are maybe not good for you. Like a devil in disguise or something.
Yeah.
But
I've had a couple of devil in disguises in my life too.
Oh yeah.
So moving on from muses, you spoke about Francis Bacon, you spoke about Da Vinci, you spoke about Van Gogh. Talk to me about what kind of techniques do you think they used, and like how that kind of helped them express their art.
Well, I would say I feel like they are from places that basically they knew about painting and art and things, and they just tried things out. Like, some people don't paint on the same things. Like, there's different materials to use. Sometimes you live in an area where you can't access the same things as other people can. Like, no one is as rich as some artists, like that guy who did the formaldehyde stuff with the sharks. Can't remember his name now. I will later on.
He put sharks in.
Yeah, like he would put like animals, like dead animals inside like formaldehyde.
That's crazy.
So you can see their insides and stuff.
That's crazy.
And he did the butterfly mandala paintings and stuff, and they were all like actual butterflies. So he would like use anything at his disposal. But obviously, not everyone has access to formaldehyde or things that can preserve, live things. But some people won't have access to things like acrylic paint, so then they'd use beetles.
Use whatever they can. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There are some people that use ink from trees or like oil from trees to use paintings, or they'll use their own blood in some cultures.
Creative.
Yeah, like I think there are some cultures who do use their own blood for those type of things, and it's even a new thing now. Like you'll use blood to do a painting. You'll start doing these performance arts. Even actors, their version of art is through their body.
They use themselves as the instrument.
So it's really about finding a foundation, finding out what you can access, finding out what you can do with what you have, and I feel like that's where everyone starts. But I feel like, to answer your question about people like Van Gogh and Francis Bacon, they chose obviously painting as an art. I think a lot of what their expression comes from is their styles. So then you'll have like Monet, for example, who has like the like dots and like and there's a technique called, I think it's called Jonathan Snow or something Snow.
Jon Snow?
Not Jon Snow. Could be Jon Snow. But like little spatters of paint that make you like focus on a certain part of the painting. Or you'll have like actual brush strokes that make you guide your eyes across the canvas to make you feel certain things that the artist felt. Like the painting we saw the other day, with the it was like a French street, and he made it so that the paint was focused in the middle where the street was, and everywhere else was kind of like blurred.
Because it was like the time lapse of what the city was about.
Yeah, and not even that, it was also like you had the focus of the street and also the actual like the vibrations of the street itself. Like everything was so vibrational and like dotty, and it was almost like you could feel the buzz of the people in the street. It was so busy, you can hear the echoes through the painting, which is crazy.
Is this something that you learn in school, or is it something that you just picked up through just like your own kind of research into art?
I mean, what you learn about art in art school or by yourself, it's just about what you take in, what you choose to take in, because like we learn about different techniques, obviously, like different brush strokes, different things, but they don't tell you how to feel about it. They don't tell you, oh, this means this means that. They just tell you, this is what the artist used, and then what do you feel about it? How do you feel when you look at this painting, or how do you feel when you're making these brush strokes? How do you feel when you're making these harsh edges? So it doesn't matter what you get taught or what you learn, it's about how you apply that.
So you get taught like whatever like ideas or whatever like kind of what knowledge there is in that field, and then it's about how you apply it to your own creative process, right? It's about how you apply it to your own way of understanding that way that you create.
Yeah.
So on that question then, talk to me. I got a question on that. Talk to me about your creative process. Talk to me about what it was like to discover how you like to create art. Obviously you were taught all these different things, but then when it came for you to start creating yourself, what was your process of thinking, and how did you find your own style, I guess?
I would say, I think a lot of it comes from basically just observing the world around you. Like you can't paint from things if you don't look. Like Van Gogh painted the sky because he saw different colours. He painted like his face to show what he feels about himself and other people. Da Vinci he drew actual like anatomically correct people because that's what he wanted to do with it. It's half about your inspiration and half about what you intend to do with it in the first place. And some of my paintings have been inspired by mainly expressionists. So I'm not really a realistic like painter or drawer. I do realistic things sometimes. But the thing that gives me the most joy out of it is when I use expressionism in my work.
What's expressionism? Can you explain that to me?
It's basically like the painting is less about what you're seeing and more about how it makes you feel. And how it's sort of like it's similar to impressionism, where you're making an impression of what a tree is or like what a building is to you, but you're basically expressing what the object in the painting is telling you, or what you want to tell it to other people. So it can be a mixture of using different colors to make it more vibrant, or you can use different brush strokes to make it seem more like alive, you know, because like if you're doing realism, then you're doing exactly what you're seeing, you know, to kind of make a message, or like to make a stand and
to show that I can do this is exactly what I see, and I can recreate that.
Exactly. And then you'll have expressionists who will do, this is what I see, but this is how I feel about what I'm seeing. so then they'll use like some people would use the same colors that you're seeing, but like make it distorted slightly, or they'll make it so that it looks sort of, it's more of a feeling. It's contextual because you can't describe it properly.
Who's your favorite expressionist painter? That's the question that came to mind when you say that. Is Van Gogh an expressionist painter?
I would say so. I mean, there are a lot of his paintings that seem expressionist. Francis Bacon is probably one of my main favourites.
I know him. He's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not like entirely clued in about all of the academic art stuff. But when I see a painting that I like and what I feel like I know contextually, then it's sort of that's all that really matters to me. Because then you'll have Francis Bacon, who was going through all of these. He was an intense painter, one of those intense people. So then you'll feel the intensity through his work, which makes me feel like an expressionist, because he's expressing himself. But
let me go off that. I think first off, that's brilliantly well done. I think it's very difficult when someone questions you about these like obviously artistic, powerhouses that came before and their styles and stuff like that. But I think the reason I asked that question because I know that you have an interest in this and that your perspective is so interesting. And that point you said about like expressionism and how that's kind of like what you're drawn to, I relate to that on a poetic sense. Well, when it comes to poetry, it's all expression. It's all about literally, I can't even get this thought from my mind to you without finding a way to express it to you. And obviously when I was in school too, I learned about all these like classical poets and like how they did it, and like iambic pentameter and like rhyming schemes and rhyming couplets and Shakespeare. But then it comes down to you when you're doing it, it's about how you want to portray that. And so like sometimes I'll use slang in my poetry because I'm like, actually that's more real to who I am. But sometimes I'll use Shakespeare because I'm like, that's actually what I want to do. And finding that balance I think is so important, and it's so like as an artist, and I think this is the kind of like the point that I'm trying to make with this. I think like as an artist, finding your style and finding who you are is a process of just like trying to learn the things that that came before you, the classics and all these things, but then letting that go, letting the idea of like you have to adhere to those styles go, because it's not a car. You can't just learn it by just like manually learning it. You have to feel it. You have to be able to express it. And you have to be able to show that this is how you perceive this type of art, this piece of art. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think art. People who try to teach you rules about art and stuff, those rules are meant to be broken. As long as you know them, like the basics, things like guidelines, the basics of how to make things more visually focused in the painting and the canvas, or how to make things more vibrant, or how to do certain textures, certain brushstrokes, how to use certain tools at your disposal. I feel like knowing those certain foundation skills can help you build upon your own stuff, your own craft, because it is a craft. Like that's where the word artisan came from. You're an artisan of your craft. So you have So even in poems as well, you'll learn how to make a certain paragraph or a certain verse stand out from the rest of them because it's the most important one to you. And it may not be the same thing to an actual reader, they might think, oh, this verse is more important to me because it speaks to me more. That's the best thing about it, is that there's no rules involved. It's just the foundation skills, and then your own, you know.
I agree, and like what comes to mind too, I always wanted to ask you is like, because obviously for me, right, speaking from my experience a little bit, I use poetry as a way to express, and poetry really does help me go through things, you know. Like, it's weird because like when I'm going through something, I won't really talk about it much with my friends. I talk about it, experiences, but I always feel like I never have the right words to describe what I'm trying to say. But when it comes to poetry, because I'm so used to it, it's almost like it's a way I can express, and it's like, here, this is what I think. Almost like people don't ask what I think in my mind. Like, here, this is what I really think, because this is something I've really thought about, and how my brain chooses to express it is through this medium. So I wanted to ask you, how do you use painting as a way to get over or to overcome emotional difficulty, or like when you have emotions, is there a way that you use it to kind of like understand those emotions in a sense, you know what I'm saying?
I would say that